Biofuels in the solid form have been in use since man discovered fire. Wood was the first form of biofuel that was utilized for cooking and heating. After inventors such as Nikolaus Otto, Rudolf Diesel, and Henry Ford, they have revolutionized biofuels with the creation of diesel engines and the Model T car. Although there was a high demand for biofuels during World War II, interest slowly faded away after. However, in the 20th and 21st century, fuel prices began to rise, and people became more conscious of the greenhouse gas emissions. To start off, a biofuel is a hydrocarbon that is made by or from a living organism that humans can use to power something. This has sparked an interest in many worldwide because of the finite amount of fossil fuels. The goal of biofuels is to be able to utilize a resource that is renewable in hopes of lessening the environmental impacts as well as conserving the amount of fossil fuels that we have left. Another important goal is to decrease the reliance the U.S. has on foreign oil imports. A significant characteristic of ethanol is that it burns cleaner than gasoline. This means that it emits fewer toxic fumes, and this would help to clean up the atmosphere. Vehicles with flex-fuel engines use a combustion engine that can run off of ethanol, methane, and/or gasoline, which allows for a better mileage. Biodiesel is also more environmentally friendly because it is biodegradable, so if it spills, it will have a lesser impact on the environment and it will be easier to clean up. Flex-fuel vehicles have electric sensors that gauge the blend, and the combustion chamber then sets itself to get the most out of the mixture provided. Furthermore, biodiesel is ready to use. Biofuels are often split into 3 generations. The first generation is called conventional biofuels. They are made from sugar, starch, corn, or vegetable oil, basically any biofuel that can be consumed by humans. The second generation is produced from sustainable feedstock. They are often called advanced biofuels and are no longer useful for consumption. People also refer to a third-generation biofuel, and it's applied to any fuel derived from algae. Flex fuels can cause damage to engines because it absorbs dirt easily. The damage can be quite expensive to repair, so people tend to shy away from it. Another issue is that biodiesel can clog filters and damage pipes, which slows down the production of biodiesel. Because of this reason, the production can be sometimes counterintuitive.
The crops that are grown and harvested for the production of biofuels can only be used for that purpose. This means that more funds will have to be spent on buying more land for crop harvesting and commercial use. Ethanol is not as fuel efficient as gasoline, and it's because of this reason that there are less supplies for ethanol and not as many stations that have flex fuel. Furthermore, because it isn't so prevalent, it tends to be more expensive than when it is found. This is important because if we go at producing biofuels the wrong way, we could end up further destroying the environment with the intent of saving it. Another common obstacle facing biofuel is the lack of suppliers. The gas stations and suppliers that actually sell ethanol sell it for higher prices, so it makes sense why a lot of people don't use ethanol. Also, ethanol isn't as efficient per mile as gasoline, meaning you would go further on 1 gallon of gasoline than 1 gallon of ethanol. With the mass implementation of biofuel, it would be harder to balance fields for commercial use and fields for production because there's only so much space for harvesting fields left. A way to prevent this is to increase input of second-generation bioenergy sources, aka waste biomass. This will lessen the amount of fuels needed to produce food and biofuels by taking waste developed by commercial use fields and using it for the production of biofuels. Biodiesel has a big obstacle that needs to be fixed so more people will actually use it. In colder temperatures, biodiesel tends to gel, so it isn't suitable for colder climates, thus giving people more reason not to use it and giving more reason not to mass produce it. Biofuels are categorized as renewable energy but not green energy. This is because its production does not benefit the earth. However, growing plants consume carbon dioxide, which means it just becomes a balancing act. If we can grow plants to utilize the same amount of CO2 we produce, then we will have a net increase of 0. On the other hand, this requires energy that must be invested before we are able to utilize the outputs. Biofuels not only release greenhouse gases, which means that even though we are balancing the CO2, we are unbalancing the N2O. Biofuels also threaten biodiversity. Because it is more efficient to grow the type of crop that yields the most desired output, it would make economical sense to grow that specific crop. This means that a particular crop is more susceptible to threats which can ruin an entire harvest. Finally, the crops used to produce biofuels require a large amount of land. This increases deforestation, which will enable more soil to release carbon into the atmosphere.